So I wanted to open this video by saying thank you for all of the feedback on the previous deck dossier. There were a lot of helpful suggestions given in both the comments on that video, on Reddit, and in some of the Discord servers that I'm in. So for those who provided me with feedback, thank you so much. For those of you who don't know about the series, in the deck dossier videos we look at decks from throughout the game's history, covering how they work, their strengths and weaknesses, as well as discussing tech choices and other aspects of deck building that went into creating the deck that it was. Additionally, at the end of each video we go through replays showing off how the deck actually works, as well as highlighting its playstyle and covering where the deck falters and shines. And that leads us to this video. While the Mech Knight one was very easy to choose because it's my favourite archetype to come out since I rejoined the game, choosing what deck would be covered next was really not an easy decision. To name a few, Dark Magician, Despots, even Dragon Rulers were all considered to be covered. And Trickstars were up there as well due to one person's insistence on me playing them, although I won't name anyone. But the deck chosen is unlike any of them, and in truth has a rather unique playstyle. And with all that being said, Crystrons are weird. With a total of 16 cards in the archetype, some whose name looks like it was created by someone smashing their face on a keyboard at first glance, Crystrons are unique in that they focus on a game mechanic created during the mid-synchro era and popularised through Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and Yusei Fudo in the form of Axial Synchro and Synchro Summoning on your opponent's turn. However, unlike many Synchro decks these days which focus on Link or Synchro laddering, the strength of Crystron lies in having an absolutely insane grind game, as opposed to, just shitting their entire deck on the board in a couple of turns. Having said all that, I'm really no expert when it comes to Crystrons. As a more casual player of the game, unless a deck really strikes my fancy, I never go beyond a little bit of playtesting. Therefore, before we get into the cards, I'd like to thank Akatrios from Discord and Phoenixian Apostle from Reddit for aiding me in understanding the plays that Crystrons can make a lot better than I would have been able to do otherwise. And as before, thank you XNA for your thumbnail. And so that brings us to the first card in the Crystron lineup, one that is arguably one of their worst and weakest monsters, Crystron Quan. A level 1 tuner with 500 attack and 500 defense. His effect is that during your opponent's main or battle phase, you can special summon one non-tuner monster from your hand, with its effects negated if it has any, and if you do, immediately after you can synchro summon a machine type synchro monster using only that monster on this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. In case it wasn't already evident, Quan is situational at best. The ideal situation is summoning him off of Needle Fiber, then using him and a level 4, usually Rosinix, to summon Amatrix before tagging out Needle Fiber for Quandux and going into Phoenix, all on your opponent's turn. As with most of the Crystron tuners that can all be used in different combos to summon different synchros depending on the situation, Quan does accomplish this, but quite inconsistently compared to the rest of the archetype. Running one seems to do the trick, and I really don't see a reason to run anymore. Next up is Citrian Rion, and while one may just be the most adorable monster in the entire game, the other kinda looks like it got out the wrong side of the bed. The reason I'm doing them together is because of their rather similar effects, which are as follows. Having the same trigger effect as Quan, Citri allows you to grab a monster out of the graveyard in order to summon a machine type synchro. However, the materials, including yourself, are then banished. Rion has the opposite effect, where he takes a monster from the banish zone, summons it to the field, then goes into the machine type synchro before the materials are returned to the deck. Despite Rion's awkward level, these effects are pretty good and form the backbone of the synchro summoning, the recovery, and the grind game abilities of the deck. Combined with the level 3 non-tuners effects, they can result in a high level synchro on your opponent's turn. And when comboed with other cards, this can result with some mass removal of their cards right in the middle of their plays. Personally, I run 2 Rions and 3 Citris, and it works pretty well. Before getting to the level 3s though, let's first have a look at the level 2 in their lineup, Crystron Praesurit, or as I shall call him, Crystron Greenboy, because I am not saying that name again. Greenboy's first effect is one that's shared by all non-tuner main deck Crystron monsters, in that while you cannot special summon any monsters from the extra deck after this except for machine type synchros, you can target a face up monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon one Crystron tuner from your deck. This effect is really useful, however his second effect is even better. You can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon one Crystron monster from your hand, although you can only use it once per turn. Like all the non-tuner Crystron monsters, the pop effect provides some great synergy with Supply Squad, which in turn can result in a draw that can allow the summon off the second effect. Having this and a Sulfafnir in hand results in a level 9 synchro on your opponent's turn, and whether that's a Trishula, Quarion Gandrax or Phoenix is really up to you. Personally, I run 2 of the card, but running 1 shouldn't really be a problem. And that brings us to the 2 level 3 non-tuners in the deck, Crystron Smiger and Crystron Thistvern, whose name makes about as much sense as his monster design. Sharing the same popping effect as Green Boy had, Smiger can banish itself from the graveyard in order to search a Crystron spell or trap from the deck, while Crystron Thistvern can do the exact same, except instead of a spell and trap, he can search a monster. While Riom and Citri provide great recursion for the deck, Smiger and Thistvern not only set up your Needle Fiber and Synchro plays, but they also allow you to search out the monsters you need, while also searching out the much needed trap in Crystron Impact and its first recovery effect. In all honesty guys, you are batshit insane if you play any less than 3 of these guys. And now we have only 2 main deck Crystrons left, the first of which is Rosinix, a level 4 with 1800 attack and 1000 defense. Not only does it have the pop effect that the other guys have, but it can banish itself from the graveyard in order to special summon one Crystron token, a level 1 with no stats, to your side of the field, but it cannot be tributed. You can only use this effect once per turn. Rosinix is meh. The level works nice for the deck, as reviving this off impact gives a level 7 or 8 synchro with only 1 tuner, or a Quarion Gandrax if both Rion and Formula Synchron are on the field through Needle Fiber's effects. Running 1 is what I do, but if you aren't running hand traps and the like, then 2 should be fine. The last main deck Crystron monster is that of Crystron Sulfafnir, one monster that's rather unique among the Crystron monsters. A level 5 with 2000 attack and 1500 defense, its effect is that if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can discard a Crystron, except itself, in order to special summon it in defense, and then you can destroy a card you control. If it's destroyed by battle or card effect on the field, including by its own effect, you can special summon any Crystron monster from your deck. You can only use this effect of Crystron Sulfafnir once per turn. Okay, for real, could you ask for any more in a Crystron support card? The discard sets up Smiger, Rosinix and Thistvern's graveyard effects. Popping itself nets you a draw with Supply Squad. It can summon any Crystron from the deck, allowing for a very easy Needle Fiber. And if the timing is done correctly, you can turn it into a 1-card Quarion Gandrax or a Trishula on your opponent's turn. Now you're probably thinking to yourself that running 3 of these is a staple like Smiger and Thistvern, right?
Wrong.
Surprisingly, that's something I've found to just be not true. While running 3 certainly has its merits since its first effect can be triggered in the graveyard, running it at 2 has turned out to be better for me as it resulted in less dead draws. When combined with other cards that can dump it and the other Crystrons into the grave, there really isn't a need to run 3 as you will almost always be able to get access to it turn 1. Therefore, I personally run 2. Being an archetype mostly focused around their monsters, Crystrons only have 3 spells and traps, 2 of which will feature in this deck, with the other falling into the tech choice category, which I will cover later. The first trap is Crystron Impact. It allows you to special summon one of your banished Crystron monsters, and if you do, all opponents' monsters that they control have their defense become 0. Then, during either player's turn except the turn that this first effect was used on, you can banish this card in order to negate the activation of an effect that targets a Crystron monster. While the protection effect is pretty nice, the reason this card is run at 3 is because of the first effect. With Crystrons banishing themselves either for their effects or through the use of Citri to Synchro Summon, the trap will almost always be live. Using it to revive a Smiger or a Thistvern that has used its effect can aid in Synchro plays when combined with Needle Fiber. And using it to revive a Citri can result in a lower level Synchro during the battle phase. Being a trap fits perfectly into this deck's playstyle as well, so personally I think there is really no reason to run any less than 3 of this trap. The last Crystron card that I run in the main deck is Crystron Entry, and this trap is interesting, to say the least. Its effect is that you can special summon 2 Crystron tuners, one from your hand and one from the graveyard. However, during either player's turn except the turn it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to target a Crystron monster you control, send a Crystron monster from your deck to the graveyard whose level is different from that monster, and if you do, that monster becomes the level of the monster sent. You can only use this effect once per turn. It should be immediately apparent how good, but how highly situational this effect is. An example play is to revive Quandrax and summon Citri while there is a level 3 on the field, as this allows you to go into Aquarion Gandrax on your opponent's turn, banishing 3 monsters during the middle of their plays. The second effect is even more situational than the first. While it can help in dumping a Smiger or a Thistvern, or even a Solfefnir if you haven't got one set up already somehow, the level changing ability is rarely helpful. Given you can search it with Smiger, I run it at 1, but that's about the most uses you'll get out of it. Now that the Crystrons are covered, we can move on to the other main deck cards that I play that will thankfully not twist my tongue in 3 separate places when I try to pronounce their names. Starting off, we have 2 monsters which help facilitate the graveyard and help set it up in Mathematician and Scrap Recycler. Mathematician allows you to send a level 4 or lower monster from your deck to the graveyard upon normal summon, and additionally, if it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you get to draw a card. Conversely, Scrap Recycler lets you send any machine type monster from your deck to the graveyard when normal or special summoned, just like all the Crystron main deck monsters are. Additionally, although the effect is pretty irrelevant, you can also shuffle back 2 Earth Machine type monsters from your graveyard into the deck to draw a card as well. Pretty simple these ones. Mathematician is there to dump Smiger or Thistvern, and Recycler helps with Solfefnir plays. These help to set up your plays and to set up for future turns. In addition to that as well, they have good levels for synchro summoning. I run the max of each, although they can be played with. Another monster that helps you set up the grave is Mermail Abyss Spike. Its effect is that when it's normal or special summoned, you can discard a water monster in order to add a level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand. Yet another fairly simple playstarter for the deck. It allows you to dump one of the 3 main Crystrons to start your plays, while also searching out Smiger, Thistvern or Rion for future plays. Combined with Quandax as it gives you a Crystal Wing or another level 8 synchro of your choice, it can even give you a Black Rose if necessary when combined with Rion. Running it at 2 seems to work pretty fine. Moving on to these spells and traps, running the one-off Foolish Burial aids the Crystron playstyle very well, as does running 3 copies of Supply Squad. When you can get 3 draws off of 1 Solfefnir summon, why wouldn't you want to run 3 of them? What more could you want, people? Beyond that, the one card I like to include is Starlight Junction, backed up with 2 copies of Metaverse in order to get it out of the deck and onto the field during your opponent's turn. While the first effect of the field spell is irrelevant to Crystrons, its second effect works really well with the deck, as it allows you to target a card on the field and shuffle it into the deck if you synchro summon a synchro monster on your opponent's turn. Having the ability to spin a card back into the deck nearly every turn is actually very useful, as not only can it interrupt plays, but having the field spell out often means the opponent has to deal with that before anything else, allowing you to focus on your own plays more. If you play it, run it at 3. As for bringing the deck up to the 40 cards, I personally run 2 or 3 Ash Blossom and the one of Max C, with the former being summonable off Needle Fiber's effect. It's good for interrupting the opponent and for rubbing salt into the wounds like any good hand trap should. Speaking of Needle Fiber, that finally brings us to the extra deck. While there are some staples here, the extra deck can really be made to suit whatever playstyle you wish to create. Starting with the most obvious card, we have the greatly mentioned and pretty much broken card in any deck besides its own, Crystron Needle Fiber. And you can tell the Konami design team had a day off on this one, as the monster is just a really simple combination of Quan and Citri. Anyway, for those who don't know, Needle Fiber's effect is that if it's link summoned, you can special summon a level 3 or lower tuner from your hand or deck in defense position, however it can't activate its effects this turn. Also, During your opponent's main or battle phase, you can banish it to special summon a Tuner Synchro from the extra deck. You can only use this effect once per turn, and it is treated as a Synchro summon. The first effect allows you to set up a Citri or a Rion for the next turn, or to go into a Synchro play during your current turn when combined with Impact. Additionally, the Tag Out effect allows you to summon any Tuner Synchro, usually one that will allow you to Synchro summon again on your opponent's turn, and we will cover those in a moment. While the card really should have been archetype specific instead of generic, like seriously, what the fuck, Konami? The card fits perfectly into the Crystron playstyle. Given that the extra deck space is tighter than a miser's purse, I run 2 of him, but you can get away with running 1 if the space is just too tight. Next are the 2 lower level Crystron Synchros, Crystron Quandax and Crystron Amatrix. Their effects are as follows. Amatrix effect is that if Synchro summoned, you can change all face-up special summon monsters your opponent controls to defense position. Additionally, if destroyed by battle or card effect after being Synchro summoned, you can special summon a Crystron monster from the graveyard as long as it isn't a Synchro. Quandax, being a Synchro tuner, is a little different, as it allows you to Synchro summon 1 Synchro monster using materials including this card you control during your opponent's main or battle phase. Something to note here is that the amount of materials is not limited. Additionally, it has the same destruction effect as Amatrix did, where if it was Synchro summoned and then destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a non-Synchro Crystron monster from your graveyard. Amatrix is good to summon during your opponent's battle phase as it can completely stop their attacks. And Quandax effect is more than useful as it gives you access to basically your entire extra deck during your opponent's turn. Additionally, their destruction effect allows for even more recursion in a deck that already has a ridiculous amount. I personally run 2 of each. One of the 2 higher level Crystron Synchros is Crystron Phoenix, a level 9 that is clearly meant to be summoned through Amatrix and Quandax, which is a little bit harder in Master Rule 4 but still possible thanks to Needle Fiber. Its effect is that upon Synchro summon, you can banish all spell and trap cards your opponent controls and in their graveyard. If this Synchro summon card is then destroyed by battle or card effect, you can summon 1 other monster from your graveyard. A monster with a surprising amount of use in today's format, especially against decks like Pendulum Magicians. The banishment effect also affects the graveyard, which prevents a lot of decks from activating the many graveyard effects they have. Its secondary effect can also allow you to go straight back into the Quandax used for its summon, allowing for a follow-up Synchro if you have the monsters available. Due to the extra deck space, I run it at 1. The other Synchro is one that I've mentioned a few times now, Crystron Quarion Gandrax. One of the more unusual Synchros in the game as it requires 2 or more tuners and only 1 non-tuner to summon. Its effect is as follows. If this card is Synchro summoned, you can target monsters your opponent controls or in their graveyard up to the number of Synchro materials used for the Synchro summon of this card. Banish them. If the Synchro summon card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 banished monster except this card, special summon it to your field. I've covered the removal effect already, but its second effect is the real winner here. Showcased in one of the replays to come, the effect can actually revive any banished monster, not just your own, meaning that any of the monsters you banish with its first effect can be retrieved if it's destroyed. It's something to think about when using the on-summon effect, and just like Phoenix, I run this at 1. As for the rest of the extra deck, this is really up to you as there are a ton of options available, and therefore I will be going through these quickly. So if you want to properly read the effects if you don't know the cards already, I suggest just pausing the video where necessary. You will want to run at least 1 of either Formula Synchron or TG Wonder Magician for the draw or pop. But beyond that, the world is your oyster. Black Rose and its Moonlight counterpart are options, as is Scrapdragon as the Crystrons like being popped. We also can't forget about Crystal Wing, because it's Crystal Wing. Samurai Destroyer, a new Synchro from Circuit Break, can put in a lot of work with its revival effect and its ability to run over Utopia the Lightning with its battle negation. And White Aura Whale is another good option, with its destruction and revival effects helping the Crystron playstyle immensely. Additionally, Powered Zextron can provide a good wall to stave off the opponent until the next turn. Psyframe Lord Omega is yet another option that can be summoned on your opponent's turn through either Formula, Wonder Magician or Quandux, allowing you to rip a card from your opponent out of nowhere. The iconic Synchro and Trishula can also be summoned this way, and Vermilion Dragon Mech is yet another option whose two effects actually suit Crystrons quite nicely. To round out a list that could honestly just go on for ages if we have the time, the last option that I'll speak to you about is Lifestream Dragon as an anti-meta option to Trickstars. Summoning this off of Needle Fiber can not only restore the life points lost from what was most likely the Lycaris reincarnation combo, but it also prevents any further effect damage, and with 2900 attack it's not that easy to get over. Wow, I can't believe I just seriously suggested playing Lifestream Dragon. What kind of crazy world have we entered here, people? Anyway, that brings us to the second last segment of this deck dossier, tech choices. Having already covered the extra deck, all that's left is some main deck options, and good god are there a lot. Some are better than others, but I'll mention as many as I can within a reasonable amount of time. Terraforming can be used in place of Metaverse if one wishes, and Twin Twisters can also be used as another spell trap removal and monster dump for the deck. Ties of the Brethren can also be used to an extent, as Ryon, Smygar and Thistvern are all targets for it, although I would recommend running slightly different ratios to get more targets into the deck. Different Dimension Deep Sea Trench can also be used to summon any water monster from the deck when comboed with the likes of Twin Twisters, and Magnet Reverse can be used to revive most of your extra deck monsters, as all Crystrons are machines. It's definitely one that I've had in my side deck for the grind game across matches. The only Crystron card not mentioned so far is Crystolic Potential, their archetypal field spell. Along with the mandatory stat boost, it gives you draws during each end phase equal to the number of times you synchro during that turn. While this can be useful, I find it inferior to Junction and Supply Squad, so this one's really up to you guys. There are some smaller engines that can be thrown in, although I found them to lower the consistency of the deck. There are Ancient Gear and Gen X engines that can be run, insert your Legacy of the Worthless joke here, but again, I wouldn't really recommend them, although you can find them online with a quick Google search. Beyond that, you can use the likes of Gofu for a quick synchro or link play, or Grinder Golem if you really want to go for the link shenanigans that we all know and hate. And that's it! There are some tech options that I haven't covered that are really spicy, but I go for the more predominant ones to highlight those over others for the sake of video time, because honestly I could do a separate video on tech choices alone. But this now leads us into the final section of Deck Dossier, the replays, and once again I will hand you over to the other me. Thank you, me, and we are going to hop straight into the replays, guys. We only have 3 this time, unlike 4 for the previous one. However, the reason for that, in case it hadn't been made obvious throughout the entire start of the first part of the video, is that Crystron's grind game. Their grind game is insane. So let's just load into the first replay here, swap to the correct side. So again, as with any of these replays, one thing to keep in mind is you got to figure out, okay, what can my opponent play on my turn? And as we're about to see here, that's quite a lot. But fortunately, we do have the hand traps to go with him this time. That's why I run, the Ash Blossoms and the Maxis. It's up to you whether you want to keep that, but I like to have them there. So at this point, think, okay, it's just Trishula, but 3 in hand. We have to remember, okay, he's got 3 in hand. He's got some stuff to play with, so we sort of have to play it a little bit careful, but at the same time we want to get prepped and ready to set up for synchro players on his turn. So what we're going to do, search out that Starlight Junction. Lost my words there, but again, so there is the Scrap Recycler into the Crystron Self-Ifnir play, along with Supply Squad. You get your Tuner, a level 3, and a draw. What more could you ask for from a simple 1-card combo, Thistvern getting dumped as well means you get the Monster Search into the Needle Fiber. Sucks that it got Ghost Ogred, but it's alright. because we can recover. Because normally the play there would be to go, like on your opponent's turn, would be to go Sistry and Scrap Recycler or whatever into Amatrix, so you flip everything to defense mode, then tag out Needle Fiber for Quandux, and then Synchro Summon into your Phoenixian. I think it's how you say it, Phoenixian? Can't remember. Yeah, so here we go, yep, switching into defense mode, nice and simple. Fortunately, again, hand traps coming in clutch, that, you know, just keeping out that Brilliant Fusion. And one thing interesting of note is that you can actually send Ghost Ogre from the field. It's not something you notice often. But yeah, again, he's got his own Ash Blossom, so it gets negated. That's alright, we still get the draw and the search. Into the Mathematician, we get that dump as well, which means we can go into the level 8. And yeah, so here's the thing. Ghost Ogre off the field. I had no idea, but but apparently it can. Obviously the opponent didn't read, because as you're about to see, White or a Whale, it's just like, nah, I'm just going to come straight back. Wonder Magician, another good little tech in this deck as well, because again, you get to pop a card straight away, which is nice. And yeah, so that's going to wrap up the first replay. As you can see, they just have very good, like, from here as well, you know, with Citry in hand, so we can go from there. You know, Scarlet Junction on your opponent's turn, Synchro Summon, get to pop another card, etc, etc. The plays just go on and on, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to switch straight to the third replay, because the second replay is, oh, so good. I love it. But again, this one. So again, starting off with the supply squads, going up against the Magibullet, or Magical Musketeers, as they're called over here in the TCG. Crystron Impact as well, getting that set up. And then I believe, yeah, so the double supply squad into the Smyga, however you say it. So not only do we get 2 draws, but we're also setting up a level 5 synchro for the next turn. Now, a single level 5 synchro isn't normally that impressive, but we've got Crystron Impact here as well, so we can summon back C3, go into like a level 7 or whatever from there. So again, get to search, get that impact, get triple supply squad. Unfortunately, one of them gets, you know, blown up. Not sure why they decided to do that, but they did. And here, so we get to pop that, go into there. Again, getting those 2 draws, it's really, really useful. Unfortunately, we get the honest dropped on us. But that's alright, we can survive. We can survive. The good thing about the Crystrons is they don't seem to get OTK'd very often. I'm not sure what it is about them, so to speak. And then again, yeah, going into Samurai Destroyer, I did misclick here. I did mean to put that in attack position. It's my fault. In the end, it was alright. It ended up being all okay. And here is the second reason you play Crystal Impact. It's because situational as this, right? We've just summoned our Needle Fiber, but haven't even been able to get its effect off yet. But we get to keep it on the field for its tag out effect on the next turn, thanks to Impact. Yet another reason to run it at 3. Could not recommend enough. So we get that C-Tree out, which is nice. Again, Impact, we get to bring back another one because, again, the effects aren't once per turn. You can activate multiple copies of the trap. And again, we get to search out. I'll just pause it there because it did go a little fast. Because these 2 here did not have their on-field pop effects happen this turn, they can both search. So we get to search the Self-Efnia, which gets the draw of Supply Squad, and we get the Crystron entry. Which is really good. in certain situations, it is really good to have. So again, it can summon out a copy of itself as well, which is the great thing. So here, what we did was, because we dumped this with the Self-Efnia, that means we were able to get out C-Tree from our hand, allowing us to go into the Quarion Gundrex. That is a mouthful, I'll never get over saying that. But again, so here, straight away, we just go, alright, banish 3. You know, just straight up banish 3. And again, Impact, I think that's what, the 3rd time we used it this turn? In one form or another, it can summon back the C-Tree, and we can go for another Synchro play. But again, what I decided to do here, and is why I have the tech in here, is the Foolish Burial, because we can send Rosenix, and because it hasn't had its pop effect, we can banish it. And that gives us the token, which allows us to go into a level 8 Synchro, as you're about to see, into the White or a Whale, which is fantastic. So I know there are some like other combos and stuff that you can do, but at this point, we've got like Crystron Needle Fiber is ready to tag out. This will summon out any banished monster when it's destroyed. This can basically just revive itself over and over and over again, because again, it's only one water monster, and the entire Crystron archetype is water monsters. So at this point, there's not really that much that can be done, because again, do the damage, but I get a draw, and I just get it back straight away. So that is why White or Whale does such a good job, in my opinion, in supporting the playstyle of the deck. And again, so straight away, Self-Fnir, straight away, get the pop. I did misclick, I meant to click Self-Fnir, but here we are. You know, going through all the hand traps, going through all the motions. We get the Starlight Junction out, just in case we need it. But here is the reason why I tagged in the Quandux earlier, because I knew I had this set. And doing this allows us to go into Amatrix and then Phoenixian and just banish all of these. Just banish all of them. Can't get them back, you know. Magical Musketeers, they can't really grab stuff back from the banish zone. And that's the replay end. Now you're probably thinking, what could top that? This, in my opinion. I don't know. I feel as though like this and the previous one was sort of on par. Again, Self-Fnir plays really good. But this does such a good job. This replay in particular, I feel, does such a good job of just showing how far Crystrons can go in terms of, you know, their, what's the name? Grind game. So we're facing off again. Tagging out, so we're getting set up. The reason we tagged out then is because the opponent tried to go into the battle phase, so we had to summon it out so that they couldn't, essentially. But just dumps his entire hand on the field, just vomits it all up. But straight away we go into the Phoenix. Phoenixian, I think, was the original name of it, but it got changed. So yeah, we just banished all of that. Heavy Metal Foes Election, guys. So good. But yeah, basically, you know, just the classic shenanigans, the Cosmos, Sextrus, you know, Summon Sorceress. We're just sitting here with one Phoenix. You know, we just got a single Phoenix on board. He summons the Dunk Destroyer, pops that, makes that mistake. This was his mistake here, popping that, because that gave us this back. And as you're about to see, it's going to allow us to go into some pretty nutty plays in a second. So, we draw a Thistfen, that's alright. We're going to pop the discard the what's the name, Citri? Stumbling over my words here. Discarding Citri, summon out the Self-Fnir, pop the other one, so we come summon another Citri, and then here we, you know, use the two to go into another Needle Fiber, because we want them in the graveyard, summon another Citri out, and then we go into the Quarion Gundrax again. This boy good. So we banish those three, get the Rion Search out, because why not? Destroy those two, which is always useful. And so this is our turn. So we've gone, so he had a full field, and we've taken it down to 2. So essentially, it's just a grind game, you know, card advantage, all that sort of good stuff. Unfortunately, yeah, Strawman doesn't allow him to do that. We tag into the Cold Dragon to get the draw. However, this is his mistake right here. Banishes the Cosmo Dark Destroyer, obviously, to get the special summon off. However, Quarion Gundrax's effect means that it can target any banished monster, not just your own. And that was, like, I didn't even notice this when I was going through and doing that. So I was just able to get out my own Dark Destroyer. It's poppy stuff again. So there's the reason why we go into the Cold Dragon, to get that draw when it's destroyed. I probably, this was a little early on into sort of my testing of what goes in the extra deck, so to speak. So that would probably have normally been a TG 1 edition at this point. But yeah, then we just keep going on with these shenanigans. So here we can go into the Vermilion Dragon mech. You know, get rid of that. We knew what it was, but, you know, we just get it out of the way. It's not going to bother us now. And basically, yeah, so we got some plays set up, basically, now. And we just sort of got to wait and see what he does, really. So I do like Vermilion Dragon mech, just because when it's destroyed, you can, you know, just revive a tuner from, I think it's the Banish Zone, yeah. So banish the tuners, and thanks to, you know, impact and all that sort of stuff, Crystrons really don't mind having that banished, you know. So he's just going off over here, but again, makes a stupid decision. Makes a stupid decision to put that back in the extra deck. That's going to be important later. And as you can see, we're down to seven cards in the extra deck. Amatrix just turns out auto defense mode. Now, that did happen at the end of the main phase. Another misclick by myself. I should have waited to the battle phase, then you wouldn't have been able to summon Orichalc. But as I was saying, this was a bit early on in sort of my play testing, so to speak. We'll get the Amatrix back, and look at this. We have one card, and he's got 3 in hand, 4 on the field. But we're going to go from here. So he summons out Surprise, that's alright. We go into the Samurai Destroyer, who always puts in work. And yeah, so I'm not sure. He must have misread the card somehow. I'm not sure what he was going for there. But then we search the impact, which is always great. Samurai Destroyer with that negation effect allows you to run over stuff like, you know, Utopia the Lightning and whatnot, which is fantastic, in my opinion. Really great to have in the level 7 Synchro Toolbox. Again, just more Heavy Metal Foes, Electrum shenanigans from him. But again, so this is like a legitimate Metal Foes Cosmo deck with, you know, Astrograph chucked in as well. But I'm going toe to toe with it, you know? This isn't like something unusual. So here he goes on the stake of not destroying Citri first, allows us to go back into Vermilion, and I seriously have no idea why he went to Skull Deep. If someone can tell me what he was trying to do there, please do. Again, he's made a couple of stakes, but it just shows, you know, he's able to do all these combos, get all this field presence, and I can just go like that and get rid of it and keep up with Crystrons. So guys, that is going to bring the 3 replays to an end. I will now hand you back to myself and we'll wrap up this video. And so with all that being said, guys and girls, this will bring this deck dossier to an end. If you enjoyed it, then please remember to leave a like on the video, hit subscribe for future content from me if you haven't already, and follow me on Twitter to get the occasional tweet that has next to nothing to do with Yu-Gi-Oh! But until next time everybody, this has been the Sage as always, signing out.